Hey everybody! So I'm going to wrap up my 5-week series on digestive health by talking about Candida. And it's interesting because Candida is probably the most common digestive and health issue that I see in the women that I work with. I see symptoms such as lack of energy, digestive issues, fatigue, brain fog, anxiety, recurring fungal skin infections, skin problems, mood swings, things that you would not ordinarily think are connected to a digestive problem in the body, much less yeast or candida. So I'm going to explain a little bit about what the heck is candida. And then as we go throughout the week, as normal, I'm going to share my 3-step protocol for helping you to deal with candida in your body and other helpful tips and best practices as we go along. Okay, so really quick, what the heck is candida? So candida is yeast, very similar to the yeast that you might use when you cook, when you make bread. Yeast is yeast, but it's actually a very common substance in the body, microorganism rather, in the body that's usually present in the mouth and in the digestive tract. And it has a job. Its job is to help with digestion and absorption of nutrients. But sometimes this particular form of yeast can overgrow. There can be too much of it, just like other microorganisms in the body. And when it's overproduced, it breaks down the wall of the lining of the small intestines and then penetrates into the bloodstream. So remember our conversation last week about leaky gut and those gaps in the lining of the small intestine that can allow buggers to get through into your bloodstream that are not supposed to be there, and then they cause that inflammation response in the body, and then there's a domino effect of issues. Well, candida, if you haven't already made that connection so far, is one of the root cause culprits of that leaky gut to begin with. And when they compromise the lining of the small intestine, then they allow toxins to get through into your body and therefore causing leaky gut. It also means that candida can then go from your digestive system where it's contained into the bloodstream, causing a more systemic infection, which can affect lots of different parts of the body. It can then move to your skin, to your thyroid, and your joints, and so forth. And it may present itself as itching in random places, fungal infections like toe infections, ringworms, rashes that you're not quite sure where they come from. You may feel inflammation, pain in the joints, the anxiety, the depression, the brain fog, and so forth. What are some things that can trigger this overgrowth of bacteria, a yeast in the body? Well, a few things. One, you may have had a round of antibiotics, and that antibiotic may have killed off more of the good bacteria versus only focusing on the bad bacteria that it was intended for, and therefore you don't have enough good bacteria to keep the yeast at bay, and it has an opportunity to overgrow. Also, having a diet that's high in refined carbohydrates and sugar. Remember, if you're familiar with baking, you always add sugar to the yeast so that it can thrive and grow. It's still a yeast, even though it's a different form of yeast that's supposed to be in your body. It lives and thrives off of sugar. Carbohydrates turn into sugar when the body digests them. And of course, if you're eating sugar, well, you're just adding fuel to the fire. You're giving it an environment to thrive and be happy. Other factors that can contribute to candida overgrowth include taking oral contraceptives, high alcohol intake, a high stress lifestyle. It compromises the immune system and makes it harder for your body to keep a lid on candida. Also eating a diet high in fermented foods. And this is interesting because fermented foods can be helpful to repairing something like leaky gut or small intestine bacterial overgrowth because they help replenish the low good bacteria that the body needs. However, fermented foods can also tend to be higher in sugar and sometimes alcohol byproducts, which can kind of create a catch-22 when it comes to candida because those are things that it can thrive on. So stick with me this week if you want to learn more about how do I know if I have candida, what are some things that I can do to address it as we go throughout the week. Talk soon. Have a great week.